Right now, we've been talking about how the future redemption depends on us. Now we can learn from the things that happened in going out of when the Jews left Egypt. Okay, one of the things is that we can learn from is the going of the Jewish people in the desert. The Jewish people went into the desert, and especially in the 42 journeys that they took in the 40 years that they were in the desert until they came to the land of Israel. This began from the journeys which are in our Torah portion. Our Torah portion is how Paro evicted the Jews from Egypt, right? So they went from Sukkos and they went to Etam at the edge of the desert. And especially after the sea was split, that they went through the desert. They entered the place called the desert of Shur, and they went to a desert of Sin to receive the Torah. And then they camped at Midbar Sin. They received the Torah, and they camped out there for about almost a year. And then they traveled. You do it's known, Shetachlis Akavana, that the whole purpose of the Jewish people walking in the desert was in order the Varer to refine the Tzutz Kedusha, the sparks of holiness, Shenaflu, that fell the Midbar Amim in this desert, world desert. Sheshorsham, Midrega, Nilis, that the sources from a very high level. We talked about the thing about the breaking of the vessels. That comes from what's called Tohu, which is above the world of Tikkun. By means of this, that the Jewish people refined these sparks of holiness and elevated them to their source. In other words, the sparks of holiness are creation, world, seemingly meaningless aspects of life. And the Jewish people, by traveling in the desert, made it meaningful. That's called elevating it. Elevating it. Something like a painter takes his paints. The paints themselves are nothing. You go into a store, you buy paints, no big deal. Buy paints, so much it would cost it. It doesn't make any difference if you go in that store and buy paints or another store and buy. If the painter knows how to paint something, then all of a sudden that painting could be worth millions of dollars, right? If those paints were used by, the painter Van Gogh, then it's worth, hundreds of millions of dollars. That's called elevating, to use things in a proper way. That what I just told you is a mundane sense. But if you're talking about using everything for the creator, in this case, like sometimes they find in the garbage, they find in the garbage a painting by, Modigliani or somebody, some famous guy, and the painting is worth $100 million. Nobody knew about it. Well, that's the same thing. If you're in the world, so everything in the world is made of God. Hey, this is a genuine God. God created this, right? A painting that was created by who knows, what's this, Van Gogh or someone. So the painting is worth a lot. Here, everything in the world is made by God. That's really valuable. That's immeasurably valuable. So it says this level was the Jewish people went through the desert in order to elevate the whole world, that everything they touched and everything they used, it was used for God. Therefore, they went to the desert in order to elevate everything, to put everything in its proper place, the proper value of everything. Inyan Zeh, that the sparks of holiness that fell into the desert, Shorsham, their source comes from this level of Echad Asar. Remember, we talked about it before. It says that the Jewish people, from receiving the Torah, after the Jewish people got out of Egypt, so they went to receive the Torah. So they received the Torah. Good. They messed it up a little bit, receiving the Torah. After 50 days, they received the Torah, but then Moses broke the first tablets. They had to wait another 40 days, and Moses got forgiveness, and they waited another 40 days, and ended up, however, it was that at Mount Sinai, that they were there for almost a year. They camped over there on Mount Sinai until God told them to leave. Okay, after they left Mount Sinai, it should have been an 11-day journey to Israel, 11-day journey. And we see that even more that it says that God, it's the sentence in right in the beginning of the book of Deuteronomy, that God took them there in 3 days. Rashi makes a whole calculation. 11 days, God made it in 3 days from them. And the Jewish people sinned. That was with the spies. And they had to wander around for 40 years. But nevertheless, the journey was supposed to be 11 days. It was an 11-day journey. So the Rebbe makes a big point of the number 11. What's the number 11? 10 is the number of the 10 sphirot, the 10 aspects of godliness. 10 aspects, facets of godliness. And 11 is something above them. So 10, that's how the aspects of godliness that God uses to create the world. The 10 utterances that God used to me. And the number 11 is above them. The same thing, the 10 commandments. There's one above them. It says that 11 from Chorev. Chorev is Mount Sinai, where they received the Torah. This 11, this is above the creation. That's the 11 days God is hinting at, that he wanted to reveal to the Jewish people a level which is above creation, like we just finished learning. The reason for creation. Bechinas Makif, this is the surrounding level. Shemimenu nasas yanika, the Yud Aleph Kisrin Delumasa. This is the surrounding level of godliness, that from it can also come evil. God creates everything. Why does God create evil? So that we'll refine it. So when we realize the reason that there's evil in the world, then we can defy it and refine it and conquer it. Like that's the hint that Echad Asar Yom Mechorev, like it says, it was the journey was 11 days from Chorev, from Mount Sinai. But the sentence continues. It says Derech Har Seir, by way of the mountain of Seir. Now the mountain of Seir, that's the place of Esav. She'echad Asar Yom, these are the Derech Har Seir, like God forbid. This means that by means of the service of the Jewish people, by refining these sparks of godliness which fell into Mount Seir, or fell into the ability to be Mount Seir, by working at the 11 aspects of holiness, is drawn down the number 11 of the Jewish people, namely the reason, the essence of godliness, the reason for creation, drawing down this level of makif, the surrounding level that we said was revealed to the Jews at the splitting of the sea, that this is drawing down, should be only drawn down to the proper place, that evil shouldn't receive any more power. They said, by means of this, there is added to the Jewish people a Ilo Yoter Gadol regarding their service in Torah mitzvahs. That's the 10 commandments that they received, which are attached to the 10 sphirot of God, and then there'll be total holiness in the 10 commandments of God will reveal the 10 the 10 commandments of God will reveal the 10 aspects of God in the 10 utterances of God in the world. And that's the whole purpose of the Jewish people. Yesh lo see if we can even add on that that's the idea, that's the difference between these 11 journeys that they were supposed to take and the 40 years that they went in the desert, which were 42 journeys. The Jewish people were supposed to take 11 days. Instead, they took 40 years. The 11 days, that corresponds to 11 journeys that they made from, or they should have made from Mount Sinai to Israel. But instead, it ended up that they made 42 journeys. B'meshech 40 shana, in the course of 40 years. That if God would have taken them just an 11 journeys, in other words, 11 days, then it would have been birur, then there wouldn't have been such a big effect on the world. Then there would have been a refinement and reveal of light from God above to below. That this does not have so much of an effect on the physical world, as we see so tragically with the giving of the Torah. I mean, we've spoken about this so many times, but the Jewish people left Egypt and God split the sea and they received the Torah. This is all God did, the whole business. The Jews didn't do anything. The Jews just followed Moses. God took them out of Egypt. God split the sea. God gave them the Torah. What was the result? 50 days after they received the Torah, as soon as Moses wasn't there, or they thought he wasn't going to come back, they worshiped the golden calf. In other words, inside of themselves, they had no loyalty. Internally, they had no loyalty. When Moses was there and God was there, of course they were loyal. They were 100%. They'd do anything for Moses, for God. What's the question? But as soon as it was a matter of loyalty that God wasn't there, then they started thinking, listen, who are we loyal to? What should we? That's what it means. If God would have taken them from Mount Sinai, 11-day journey, if they wouldn't have sinned with the golden calf, or even after they sinned with the golden calf, God forgave them. But if the journey would have only been 11 days, then they wouldn't have had a chance to internalize this feeling of God, and number one. And number two, they wouldn't have affected the world as much. They would have only been in the desert for 11 days, traveling in the desert. That's not what God wants. God wants that there should be service by means of their service of the Jewish people from below to above. That the effect that the Jewish people have in the lower worlds, he is bishleimuta, should be complete. In this physical world, I mean, birur im, I'm saying, and together with this, yeshno, there is also a Eloi, and there is also the high quality, hamshachas giloi or elyon, a higher type of light. This at 11. So Jewish people, they got 42 journeys. That's talking about refining every aspect of the world. But together with this, they also had the 11. What's the 11? 11, we said, is the one, this level of God's crown, God's essence, which rides on top of and reveals itself in the 10 commandments, the 10 aspects of God's personality, the 10 utterances that God created the world with, milamai lamata, from above to below. So Jews, but the 42, that's from below to above, and the 11, that's from above to below, what God does. Then it's possible that you can, then it's possible that you can actually reach this level by means of a measured service, a measured and an exact service of God. 11 journeys the Jewish people made. Nasam HaKodesh Baruch Hu, God took them derech a midbar, but God took it 40 years. Instead of 11 days, 40 years. Why? Because God wanted both of them to be together. The 11 days, that shows what God does. But God, on the other hand, wanted it to be 40 years, 42 journeys. That's refining from below to above. The Jewish people had to do it. So he wanted the world to be permeated with the power of the revelation from above. So the Jewish people should work from below, but that the world should be refined from above. In other words, simple, let's say simple language. The Holy Temple, right? The Jewish people built the Holy Temple. They built the Holy Temple. They built the Holy Temple themselves. And the Holy Temple was a building. It was a building like any other building. They built that from below to above. But once they built this building from below to above, there was a tremendous revelation of the essence of God. So they had to do both together. They had to have both the work from below to above. That signified also the same thing with the 42 journeys, below to above. But then there was the revelation of the 11, of the essence of God in the 10th Sphirot that was revealed. So the Rebbe is not saying that here, but I am saying it. And there's a mimer also by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe that the third temple is going to be greater than the first temple. Why? Because the first and the second temple that was done, the Jewish people built it from below to above on their own, and it took them however long it took them, a year, however long to build. And the third temple, the Jewish people are building it from below to above. It's taking us 2,000 years to build. We're refining the world, and then the revelation is going to be the Beit HaMikdash itself, not just godliness in the world, pure God in the physical world. The third temple will be pure physical godliness in the physical world. What's the third? Because the fact is God is creating the whole world. The whole world will shine. Okay, so that's the idea of the journeys of the Jews in the desert. Al derech then similarly is also regarding the war with Amalek. That the war with Amalek, that's the end of this week's Torah portion. Ki yad al kes yudke milchama Hashem Amalek. It says God raised his hand on the throne of Yudke, of God's name. He raised his hand. Milchama, there will be a war for God with Amalek. In Hashem Shalem, the name of God is not complete until is wiped out the name of Amalek. Amalek. Now it's a very interesting thing. That's happening in the world. Is that the Jews they like to assimilate. Jews like to assimilate. Jews, they don't like this idea of being a special people and the sons of God, and that was the idea, the dream, a genius dream of Zionism. Zionism, genius dream that they found a way to get rid of this, how do you say, the scarlet letter or whatever, this the Ot Kain, that we are Jews and we're different and we're special and we're a holy people and the Torah is holy with holy and this holy and the land is holy and holy. They got this idea, we're going to be friends with the non-Jews. We're going to be, first of all, we have to be a nation like everybody else. And then when we become non-Jews, then the non-Jews will like us. We're not Jews anymore. We're Israelis. The Torah is not a holy book. It's a book. Everybody has their book. We have our book. It's a history book. It's the Iliad. It's Odyssey. And it's going to be regular. And the non-Jews will like us. All of a sudden now, specifically now, suddenly they start to see that the non-Jews, they don't want to like us. They don't enjoy liking us. They don't get any pleasure. It's not a drive inside of them to like us, right? All we want to be is like everybody and liked by everybody. That's all we want. And all of a sudden, there's this whole new universal, ubiquitous hatred for the Jews. Why? By people, and the only reason they're hating the Jews is because they're not Jews, and we are. That's their only logic. Not because they're better, they're smarter, they're more, they're moral, they're more productive. The Jews are stupid, the Jews are destructive. There's not any reasons why. There's not any reasons. Maybe they make up reasons afterwards. Hitler made up reasons. These people aren't even making up reasons. So suddenly we see it's becoming clear that there's a thing called Amalek. Amalek is a nation, a drive inside of people that hate the Jews just because they're Jews. What does it mean, a Jew? Because they're representatives of God and they hate God. And they're starting to realize that every Jew is starting to realize, hey, I am really a representative of God. That's why people hate me. And this is a good thing. But what they're doing is bad. I don't want to be like them. I don't want them to be my friends. These people, they're bad people. That's the idea of making a war with Amalek. God made a vow that he's going to fight against Amalek. Amalek is from the seed of Esav. Bechinas Yud Aleph, that's the 11th level of Le'umazeh. Echad Asar Yom. Esav, by the way, is Edom. And Edom, that's really representative of the church. So the church is really based on this idea of trying somehow or other to get rid of the Jewish people, somehow or other get rid of them, either by how do you say by forcing them this, or now they have this new thing. They want to be nice. They're nice guys. They smile. They give money to Israel. But the same thing. It's the same basic principle. Somehow or other to get rid the Jews, even though that a lot of people, there's a lot of non-Jews that are starting also to wake up. What's going on over here? Well, I don't want to be part of this hatred for no reason. Echad Asar Yom, Har Seir. It says it's 11 days from Mount Seir. Seir, that's Esav. That's Amalek. Al Yadein, by means of, and by the way, Esav, of course, we know was a Jew. Esav was a Jew. He was the brother of Yaakov, right? Al Yadein Biru Mechayis Amalek, by means of wiping out Amalek, wiping out Emche, God wants to wipe them out. There shouldn't be any more of this meaningless, destructive hatred. But Dimcha, that God said, I'll wipe them out, and Jews, you have to wipe them out. This is the first letters of Emet. Macha, Emcha, Timcha. Right? It says, God I will wipe out, and you will wipe out Amalek. I will exterminate Amalek, and you will exterminate them. This is the levels of Emet. Emet, Emcha, Macha, Timcha. The Jewish people are revealing the Yud Aleph of Kedusha, the number 11 of holiness. This is the whole idea of God's name is complete. Not just the letter Yud K. This says that the God raised his hand on the throne of Yud K, the first two letters of God's name. But God's name will be complete. That also Vav He. Vav He, that's the second two letters of God's name. That's the numerical value of 11. That's the 11 we're talking about. This is talking about the revelation of this 11th level. B'chol prati, in every detail of the creation. From the 10 powers of the soul, will be revealed Vav He. Alderich says similarly regarding to Yitro. That's next week's Torah portion. So what have we talked about? We talked about the splitting of the sea. We talked about the travels of the Jewish people in the desert. We talked about the song that the Jewish people sang. Now we're talking about the wiping out of Amalek. These are all preparations for the revelation, which is going to be in the future, which should be any second now. It's not understandable why it hasn't been now. But a lot of the revelation in the future depends on the attitude and the how do you say, the world view, the hearts of the Jewish people. The hearts of the Jewish people, what the Jewish people get excited about. Do they get excited about their Judaism? Yes, now it's starting. And that's what's talking about wiping out Amalek. And that's the announcement of Yitro and Moses coming in the beginning of Parshas Yitro. It says that Yitro converted. When Yitro converted, now Yitro, he said he was like the biggest. There's a whole midrashim that Yitro was like the most famous. What do you want to call him? The priest of idolatry. He was like the pope of all idolatry in the world, not just one religion. He knew everything. And suddenly he started having doubts about his faith, right? His faith in idolatry. And everybody started to hate him. And he eventually he ran away, went to Moses. And he said to Moses, what's going on? I was sitting high. I was the highest person. And suddenly I realized maybe I'm wrong, and now I'm really suffering because of it. But I heard that the sea split and that Amalek attacked you. And, I want to convert. I want to be part of you guys. You guys are you're the ones that are pursued. You're running away. You were a slave. I want to be part of that. Yitro, when he converted, why did he convert? Because he said, I see that the whole world is against you and the whole world is wrong. I want to be one of you. I want to be part of God's people. That was Yisro. This is the idea, Yitro, that he was the ultimate idol worshiper. This is when he said, I recognize the Creator. I recognize the God of Israel. This is refining sparks of holiness that fell very low, that their source comes from the 11. We said this number 11 of holiness, that only from there can come evil, because God is creating everything. So from this incomprehensible aspect of God comes incomprehensible things, that God creates evil also. But when the source of this evil is revealed, this number 11 is revealed, then the evil has no standing, because the whole essence of evil is that there's no one's creating me. I'm God. And God gave them the power to do this. The Al Yadei Birurum, by means of refining the separateness, the egotism of the world and raising them up to their source, Nasa, there is made Hosafa v'Yitron. Yitron means an addition by the Jewish people. That's the whole idea of Yeter Parsha Achad B'Torah, that there was an added one chapter of the Torah. Shalom, as this hints at the addition of the Echad Asar, that's the 11, the one extra one that was added, that's the one that's added to 10. Mechorev, that's what's hinted at when it says that 11 days from Chorev. This is above the number 10, the 10 commandments, and etc. According to this, now we can understand some of the details in these two Torah portions. Bashalach, talking about the Jews leaving Egypt, splitting the sea, defeating Amalek, and Yitro, receiving the Torah. Before receiving the Torah, the preparation for receiving the Torah, Yitro coming to Moses and says, I want to convert. How these things are a preparation for the completion of receiving the Torah, which when are the Jews going to really completely receive the Torah? Lotid level, only in the future. It's known that the giving of the Torah, when God gave the Torah, this is a thing that happened only once. Never going to happen again. God gave the Torah to the Jews. The Jews sinned with the golden calf, but God didn't make another giving of the Torah with thunder and lightning. God just said to Moses, okay, I'll give you new tablets. We'll do this quietly. The whole idea of God taking the Jews out of Egypt and God splitting the sea and God giving them the Torah, first of all, this is a thing which defies all logic and all history and all science. You know, science has never detected any God somewhere that gave the Torah, that has this desire to give Torah, gives laws, right? It's never been in the history of mankind that anyone has testified that they have seen this God or felt this God or whatever. Even all these other religions, they say they got it from an angel, from a person, from this. God is too far away. And also the history books, right? They don't, what is it, they don't include such a thing like this. Great figures in history, God. God is not a person, he's not a personality, he's not a this. But nevertheless, here we see that God himself revealed himself and he spoke to all the Jewish people and he gave them the Torah and he took them out of Egypt. So the whole idea of the giving of the Torah, now this God is the same God that's right now. It's not that God, did it one time and he said, and that's it. I'm retiring. I see that people didn't really appreciate my act, and that's all I got. That's the whole act. That's my whole repertoire, and I guess nobody appreciates it. So, maybe I'll try to be a doctor, a lawyer, or something. God, that's not the way it goes. The same God is the same God right now, and the Torah is just revealing the anatomy of God. Right? Like a human being has anatomy, it doesn't change. An anatomy book from 100 years ago or 500 is the same anatomy as now. The Torah is God's anatomy. This is his will, his wisdom. And God personally revealed it at Mount Sinai. Okay, now this idea, but the Jewish people, they didn't really appreciate it, and they won't appreciate it until the Moshiach reveals the godliness in the Torah. That's the whole idea. Nowadays, it's possible people can come along, this whole religion came along and it just twisted all the ideas of the Torah. In the future, it won't be possible to twist the ideas of the Torah anymore. There won't be any more Christianity of these things. They just won't exist. Right? People see that all their interpretations, how the whole religion is based on, is just false. But now it's possible to make it false because you don't feel the godliness, the truth of the Torah is not felt. says that the giving of the Torah is one time. Kevin Shabo, because when God gave the Torah, Nitnu was given not just the Torah, but also was given also ideas of the Torah that are going to be revealed only in the future by means of God. Secrets of the Torah, even though that it says that a new Torah is going to come from me, it means a brand new Torah. What does that mean? Since the Matan Torah, all these things were completely concealed, and they were so concealed that these secrets of what the Torah is, they were so concealed that in the future it's going to seem like it's a whole new Torah. You didn't even know that it was there. It's like a person giving a person a stick. So this stick came from your grandfather. Save it. A walking cane. Oh, my grandfather. This is very nice. And someone comes in and says, "Where'd you get this?" It was my grandfather's. This stick. This was the stick that was actually owned by Maimonides. This stick is worth maybe $1 billion. Imagine stick, right? That's pretty good. Someone comes in and says, "What? This is the staff of Moses. With this staff, you can do all sorts of miracles." Wow, that you never dreamed of, right? It's the same thing. The Torah is the same Torah. And we're giving the Torah because it was given by God. You want to say by our grandfather. But we don't realize the holiness which is inside of it. So came along the Arizal and Hasidut Chabad, and they explained these secrets. This was owned by Maimonides. It's 500 years old. It's worth $1 million. No, someone else comes along. The Moshiach is going to say, no, this thing is worth. It's Moses' staff. You can do it. We'll see what the Torah really is. It says it'll seem that the Torah is like brand new. It's a thing that's never been before. One of the explanations is that when the Torah was given, we're given the 10 commandments. So what I told you about this grandfather's walking stick, that was just something I made up. The fact of the matter is that God gave us the Torah, and that's not made up. And in the future, when Moshiach comes, will reveal that the secret, the godliness of the Torah, something like the staff of Moses, every word, and that's available to each one of us. One of the explanations is like this: when God gave the Torah, He gave the 10 commandments. This corresponds to the 10 utterances by which God created the world and the 10 sphirot of God. This is a level of godliness which has some connection to the world, like it's explained in the revealed Torah, the laws which are relevant to day-to-day life. But the level of godliness that has no connection to the world is not revealed, it's concealed. In the future, when Mashiach comes, will be revealed in the Torah this level of godliness which is incomparable, something like the splitting of the sea we just talked about. That's which the Hasidut and Kabbalah, they hint at this. It's called the secrets of the Torah, that in every single word of the Torah is concealed these amazing treasures of godliness until the revealed God Himself. Like it says, Torah, that new Torah is going to come from me. From me, says the Torah, me'ite, that everyone will know me. That's the level of 11. That's the level of love. That's the one God who gave the 10 commandments. Gave the 10 commandments. Elabach, as then, that was only the beginning of this revelation. In the future, the main revelation is going to be by means of our service all the time of exile, in the Midbar, right? If God wanted the Jews to be 40 years in the desert in order to internalize, we've been 2,000 years in the desert. Like it's known that all the time of this exile, this was hinted at the 42 journeys that the Jewish people took in the desert, the 40 years. So we have refined all of the sparks of holiness. Like the rabbis say, God did not exile the Jewish people among the non-Jews only in order to add gerim, converts. What does it mean, converts? Human converts also, but we don't want converts. The Jewish people are not looking for converts. A true convert is a person that he is a Jew, but it was concealed inside of him. He wasn't aware of it. And it just becomes aware of the fact that he's a Jew, right? Even though it's concealed in a non-Jewish body, and then he converts. That's the same thing as in the world. Everything in the world is really pure godliness, just like the soul of a Jew is pure godliness. Everything in the world is pure godliness, but it's concealed. And the time that the 2,000 years that we've been in the world, this is refining the world until we've finally reached the level of, it says, a ruach hatuma, the spirit of impurity. God said, I will clean away from the world. That's what it means. I will wipe out the memory of Amalek. And for this, we can come immediately to the giving of the Torah, the new Torah, Torah Chadasha. We'll feel the holiness of the Torah that God gave us to Moshe. That'll be the completion of that. And that's why all the Jews will come into the land of Israel. And the land of Israel, that'll be the whole redemption. It'll be the third temple. And the third temple will be built according to the specifications of the new Torah. When Ezekiel received Yechezkel, he received he received the specifications for the new temple, for the third temple. But if you read it, you can read it, but it's hidden. It's not understandable. Maimonides talks about it. Since the Nosaf al Eretz Sheva Amim, and also the land of Israel will grow. In addition to the 7 nations that we're receiving now, they'll also willfully, there'll be the 3 other nations, the Keni and the Kenizi and the Kadmoni, will also willfully give their lands to us, which is like a big part of Iran and a big part of Iraq or something. Look, you have to look at a map. Until the Atid, it says in the end, the land of Israel, it says, will even spread out on the whole world. The whole entire world will be in the level of what Israel is now. What does it mean in the level of Israel is now? It'll be a dwelling for God. The whole world will be a semi-holy temple. The whole world is a creation of God. Everyone will see it, revealing the essence of God. The oneness of God will be revealed in the whole entire world. As we'll talk about more, we'll try to finish this, God willing, or at least do some more of it tomorrow on Friday. And now, a Yom Yom.